Good morning from Portland, Oregon, the city of roses. A congenial, user-friendly kind of place of parks, fountains, gardens, and rivers. It's divided by the Willamette River and bounded by the Columbia. Overlooked by the glory of Mount St. Helens and the snowy cap of Mount Hood, the natural beauties of the Oregon Trail have excited travelers for years and still do today, Tuesday, May the 23rd, 1989.
From NBC News, this is Today in Portland with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Pauley.
Pioneer Courthouse Square is the place where things happen in downtown Portland. It's the symbol of the city's rebirth and recovery from the economic ashes of the 60s. And it's our base of operations for the second day of our week-long tour of the Pacific Coast. And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Tuesday morning, and welcome to Portland, Oregon, where we've been joined by about, 3,000 of our favorite people?
I think they're lined up for tickets to The Who.
Yeah, somebody told them The Who was in town. Anyway, this is stop number 2 of our week-long excursion down the Pacific Coast. Tomorrow for us, it's on to San Francisco, then Los Angeles, finishing in San Diego on Friday. Chances are quite good we realize that you know an awful lot more about those 3 cities than you do about Portland. We'll try to close that gap just a little bit over the next 2 hours, starting in about 15 minutes. We visit with this state's governor, Neil Goldschmidt. Jane?
Chances are the house you live in was built out of Oregon timber, but this state's #1 industry is in a life and death struggle with environmentalists. We'll get into that debate. In our 8:30 half hour, novelist Ken Kesey will tell us why he calls Oregon home in words and pictures.
And we're also going to visit some of the places that make Oregon's landscape so breathtaking. We're going to go on out to Mount St. Helens. Also, Crater Lake is on our sightseeing list. Lots more ahead over the next 2 hours. Let's begin our day back in New York at the news desk with John Palmer. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Bryant. Jane, first in the news, the political turmoil continuing in China this morning with hundreds of thousands of students massed in Tiananmen Square vowing to continue their protest until the 3 top leaders of the hardline Chinese government resign. The situation has been changing hour by hour. NBC News correspondent Keith Miller is now on our open line to Beijing with another live update. Good morning, Keith.
Beijing is a city of rumors, John, and speculation tonight as everyone awaits the outcome of a struggle for power in the highest levels of government. The portrait of Mao Zedong was splattered with paint by vandals as thousands of people marched into Tiananmen Square. These are the first pictures to be transmitted by satellite since the government of Premier Li Peng declared martial law and attempted to enforce a news blackout. The demonstrations for democracy took on new energy today when it became apparent that a struggle for power among China's top leaders was underway. Tens of thousands of demonstrators called for the resignations of Premier Li Peng and Deng Xiaoping, China's paramount leader. Martial law is still officially in effect, but so far the authorities have made no move to enforce it. Troops remain in the barracks, and they're retreating to the barracks and staying there throughout the day. The demonstrations are backing Communist Party chief Zhao Qiang, a reformist, but the political pendulum in China can swing in unexpected and sometimes dangerous ways. John?
Keith, what about those reports that maybe the Prime Minister has already been forced to resign there?
Well, those rumors are circulating, and they could very well be true, but one must keep in mind that all of the inner workings of the government are done in secret, behind closed doors, and we won't know until the last moment what has actually occurred here.
Thank you, Keith Miller, reporting live this morning from Beijing. In other news, Tehran Radio reports that 88-year-old Ayatollah Khomeini underwent surgery this morning to stop internal bleeding in his digestive system. The report says Khomeini is in satisfactory condition following his surgery. Lawyers for House Speaker Jim Wright are appearing before the House Ethics Committee this morning, trying to save the Speaker's political career by arguing that the charges against him should be thrown out. NBC News congressional correspondent Henry Champ is reports live now from the Capitol. Morning, Henry.
Good morning, John. In a few minutes, the chairman's gavel will signal the beginning of this hearing. It's a hearing in which Speaker Wright desperately needs a victory in order to protect his job. Overnight, television moved into the committee room to hear and see Wright's lawyers argue that many of the charges should be dismissed, that the committee has stretched the rules well beyond their original intent.
I think that these issues, when looked at closely by the American people, they will determine that these issues are technical in nature. They deal with rules of the House, which if you look at the black letter of the rule, it has clearly not been violated.
Late Monday, the Speaker said the same thing to NBC News.
I think when people see what it amounts to, they'll understand that I haven't done anything that's fundamentally or basically wrong at all. Not at all.
The Speaker will not appear. This first public airing of Wright's financial affairs will see the committee's lawyers defending their charges of conflict of interest and outside earnings violations. Privately, even Wright's supporters are saying some of these charges must be set aside if he is to survive. The committee will listen today and most likely make those rulings tomorrow. John?
Thank you, Henry. In other news, Secretary of State James Baker, using clear and blunt language, has laid out the Bush administration's blueprint for peace in the Middle East, calling on Israel to forswear annexation of occupied lands and calling on Arab countries to take concrete steps toward accommodation with Israel. State Department correspondent John Dancy reports.
What was unusual about Baker's speech was its bluntness to Washington's largest and most powerful pro-Israel lobbying group. Israel, he said, must be willing to give up the idea of annexing the West Bank and Gaza in return for peace.
Forswear annexation. Stop settlement activity. Allow schools to reopen. Reach out to the Palestinians as neighbors who deserve political rights.
His advice to Palestinians was equally straightforward, telling them to give up their uprising and reach out to Israelis.
You have the most to gain from doing so, and no one else can or will do it for you. Finally, understand that no one is going to deliver Israel for you.
Israeli Defense Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who met with Baker later, reiterated that Israel wants peaceful elections in the occupied territories, but cannot find Palestinians to take part.
We have to have a partner, a Palestinian partner.
There was nothing new about the U.S. position. What was new was the tone. It was as if the United States had said, here's what needs to be done, now do it. John Dancy, NBC News, at the State Department.
Israeli Prime Minister Shamir this morning rejected Baker's criticism of Israel's policy of building new Jewish settlements in the occupied lands. Shamir said it is clear there are differences of opinion and said he does not see any link between Israeli settlements and the peace process. Billionaire developer Donald Trump says he will take his $365 million and go home if his deal to buy the Eastern Airline Northeast shuttle is not approved by Friday of this week. Trump says he is already paying too much for the shuttle. If the deal collapses, though, he gets $8 million as concessions. Michael Dukakis has finally made it to the White House. The Massachusetts governor and his wife were in Washington last night with other governors for an official state dinner at the White House. In his remarks at the dinner, President Bush said that he and his wife Barbara are enjoying their stay in the White House. And with a smile, he said that he didn't want anybody to get any ideas about cutting short their tenure there. And that's it from this desk in New York. Now back to Portland and Brian.
Thank you. I don't know what we did right, but by statistics, supposedly Portland has 67 days like this a year. How did we rate one?
What do you mean you don't know what you did right? You brought me.
That's true.
When
that's
you have
true.
no weatherman, the sun always shines.
This
everywhere.
Is gorgeous.
I was here for this.
This is gorgeous.
Bless your heart. This is a typical Portland afternoon in May. Every day it's
every
like
day
this.
Is like
every
this.
day like this. But don't too many people come here. They don't want everybody here. They just want us. We only want a few good men and women. We don't want the whole world to come in.
And we ain't sure about the men.
And we're not sure. Bring the women. But I was here for the Starlight Parade about 5 years ago. Had a wonderful time. And the Rose Festival's on its way now. And you're looking at a genuine Oregon rose on my lapel. And this is an Oregon bear. The Oregon bear sleeps in his little bear skin. He sleeps very well, I am told. Last night I slept in my little bear skin, and I caught a heck of a cold. There you go. Anyway, this is a wood carving by Brian McInerney, and we'll see some of his works later.
He's got some
spectacular works here. But anyway, I want to check a couple of... First of all, let's look at... the senior citizens came by to sing for us. This is the Oregon Senior Theater, and I'm so sorry that they weren't able to be here today, but we at least got their picture. And they serenaded, I understand, the crew yesterday, so thank you very much for that. Let's check the Weather Act this morning and see, first of all, mention a little birthday. We have a lovely lady who's celebrating her birthday, and her name is Ada Whitaker of Sharon Springs, Kansas. She's 100 years old today. We wish her a very happy birthday. On the big weather map, look out for showers today from Philadelphia all the way west to Lexington, Kentucky, down to Mobile, Alabama, all the way down to Central Florida. Heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic states, and also some showers in the Pacific Northwest throughout Montana to the east. Might even be a sprinkle or two here in Oregon, but that's what makes the roses grow, and that's what we like about the South. Southwest, and the southern plains and the central plains all the way to Rapid City, South Dakota. The heat continues. Temperatures in the 90s, incredible in the nation's midsection. And look out for severe thunderstorms throughout the upper Mississippi Valley and the east central part of South Dakota and Nebraska. Now, here's what's happening in your world even as we speak on this sunny day.
Good morning, I'm David Selesky. Weather for Portland and vicinity calls for partly to mostly cloudy skies and occasional rain showers or a thunder shower. Daytime high today near 59 degrees.
Well, that's it. That's all right now from the beautiful Pioneer Park where they have their own weather guru. We may try to find out what he says in just a minute. Now back to Brian Gumbel in New York. Back to Jane Pauley in Portland.
And on close-up this morning, the city of Portland, a city with a split personality.
Civic Stadium in Portland, and it's a very fine evening.
Professional baseball Portland style. Tonight it's the Portland Beavers against the Calgary Cannons. While baseball here is strictly minor league, Portlanders insist this is a major league town. With a metropolitan population of over 1 million people, Portland is a big city with a small town flavor. But it's also a city of paradox. Portland regularly ranks as one of America's most livable cities, but now it's also near the top of a recent big city crime list. On the plus side, it's a spectacular natural setting for a city. Downtown Portland features a revitalized city center, even a free downtown rail system. And there are fountains everywhere which use water from the Willamette River to turn ordinary city blocks into something unique. People here are surrounded by the beauty of the Northwest. A local nursery on Saturday can be the most crowded spot in town. Some here say their love for flowers is because of the weather, which even optimists describe as dreary.
To me, it's the recovery of coming out of a winter mode. When the seasons change and you come into a real happy springtime, I think people just get a real boost in buying flowers such as this.
And Portlanders' love of the arts also contributes to a high standard of living. During an impromptu afternoon performance, members of the Pacific Ballet Theater gave credit to the city for an atmosphere of creativity.
It's a town of great opportunity. It's a part of the country that hasn't had a lot of education locally. It's all been imported, so there's room for growth here.
But while members of the company rehearse a fighting scene from the ballet Romeo and Juliet, a real-life drama is being played out on the streets of Portland. Recently, Portland placed third in the nation in crimes per capita and first in the nation in bank robberies. One problem, a critical shortage of jail beds.
In the state of Oregon, if you're sentenced to a 10-year term in jail, you serve approximately 32 days of incarceration.
Crack houses and violent youth gangs operate in predominantly minority neighborhoods. Community groups are trying to fight back, but see only drastic solutions to the problem.
What I've suggested is they bring out the National Guard, pure and simple, because the average cop will tell you this is beyond them.
Most Portlanders still have a good feeling about the future and the kind of Portland their children will inherit. But will their city be more than just a stop along the way to a big league town?
Part of the fun is watching people who have played in Portland making it in the major leagues.
Portland's dilemma is the same. Can a city with San Francisco and Seattle for neighbors keep its best and brightest from moving on? We're reminded that Oregon was settled by visionary people seeking a better life, and residents here would like to think that talented young people will stay to continue that tradition. In a moment, we'll meet the governor of Oregon, Neil Goldschmidt. In the meantime, from Portland, where I'm getting a wonderful tan today, this is Today on NBC.
That was Mr. Pullum on the phone. He wants to move your 10 a.m. in San Francisco to 3 p.m. in San Diego. You did have a 4 o'clock with sales, which I could slide to 5, but you have a dinner at 6 and a plane at 9 unless you stay over.
Within the ever-shifting, ever-churning world of business in the West, there is one constant. United Airlines has more flights to more West Coast cities than any other airline. On that, you can rest assured. United, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve. Come fly the friendly skies.
And you wouldn't have such a crazy schedule.
You know, the one statement that I keep getting back to is Serenity Lane saves lives. It saves families. You know, a year ago, my husband's health was so bad, I don't know what shape he would be in today, if he would still be alive. And to be able to get a second chance in life. Not many people get a second chance. You know, you go through this life once, you blow it, you've blown it. But Serenity Lane's a second chance. Miracles do happen there every day.
You'll love the furniture bargains at Levitt's big Memorial Weekend sale. Like this Simmons luxury quilt bedding. Any size, only $99 each piece. Twin size, full size, queen size, king size. Only $99 each piece. Here's another great buy. Only $797 for this beautiful 100% top grain leather sofa. Now during Levitt's big Memorial Weekend sale.
You'll love it at Levitt's. Abner! Come quick!
What is it now, Gladys?
The Stevens house, Abner. It's changing color.
You ever hear of paint, Gladys?
Whatever. So many different colors.
Ever hear of Rada, Gladys?
I tell you, Abner, it's magic.
No, Gladys, if it were magic, you'd disappear.
We're back in Portland at 7:16 to talk a little politics. Oregon's natural beauty seems to encourage what used to be called rugged individualism, not only in lifestyle, it seems, but also in politics. Oregon voters aren't usually so opinionated, but they are always involved. The area boasts one of the highest voter turnout rates in the country and more than 200 citizen boards and commissions. Clearly, it's a state that cannot be accused of apathy or a lack of imagination. In 44, Oregon sent the feisty Wayne Morse to the Senate, where he stayed for 4 terms, becoming a vocal critic of the Vietnam War and one of only 2 senators to vote against the Gulf of Tonkin resolution.
For the American people are going to die by the millions if we continue, in my judgment, this war of ours in Asia.
The state's current senators live up to the legacy, with Morse's replacement, Republican Robert Packwood, challenging his party's stance with a strong pro-choice position on abortion, and his colleague, Mark Hatfield, a strong advocate of détente. Oregon voters have supported rebel presidential candidates from Nelson Rockefeller to Eugene McCarthy. But the man who may well have best reflected the spirit of the maverick Oregon politician was the late Governor Tom McCall, who explained his state's citizens by telling a story about a fork in the Oregon Trail.
The trail went north toward Oregon. The part that went south went to the gold fields of California, and it was marked by a piece of gold quartz. No inscription at all. And the trail that went to Oregon, it said, to Oregon's Willamette Valley. And the story is that the people who could read went to Oregon, and the roustabouts went to California.
Well, the latest in that line of Oregon mavericks is this state's sitting governor, Neil Goldschmidt. And good morning, Governor. I could also call you Mr. Secretary and Mr. City Councilman.
Other bad names.
Yeah, you came
welcome.
on up through the ranks. Thank you for being with us. You
Thank
got a
you.
big hand when you arrive here. Is that normal procedure?
When I'm standing next to you, I get those kind of hands. That's right.
Thanks a lot. You tell me, what makes Oregonians elect such mavericks?
I think not a great attachment to partisan politics. A lot of influence by independent voters, both registered as independents and who vote independently in their party. And quite frequently, they elect 2 people who don't disagree with each other to sit side by side, and they want to hear them fight it out. I think it's kind of a nice way to do it.
And yet, for all of its maverick governors and for all of its esteemed senators, this state hasn't had a really strong voice in the House in years. Why not?
Well, actually, we're doing better now in the House than we've done in a long time. I think Les Aucoin and Peter DeFazio and Ron Wyden, the team we've sent back there, it works better together. And, you know, we only get 5. It's not like we get to send 50 and choose one to come out to be a power.
So it becomes difficult to get a national
perspective. Yeah,
on
besides, our
something.
people tend to move on to other offices, and we tend to knock each other off.
I'm wondering, you have such a broad participatory democracy here. As I noted, 200 commissions and councils use the referendum process liberally. Are you ever concerned, perhaps, that overuse of it is draining away energy, draining away resources that might be better used more productively?
I'm not in Oregon. I've been watching with fascination in California, where the money's getting very big in those races. I don't think the money's been big here at all. People use the initiative petition, go out and collect the signatures and go out and work. For me, the biggest event and initiative in years was when the people tried to legalize marijuana, couldn't get enough signatures to put it on the ballot last time. I think there's a measure of restraint on our citizens about what they'll sign and what they care about. They cared about rivers, so they signed the petition, and we got a terrific scenic rivers bill out of it. And for Oregonians, I think it works.
So you think the system works?
Sure. I mean,
tops among your problems. Land is terribly expensive here. The Japanese like what they see. They like to buy what they see. That give you a problem?
Well, we don't have any problem with land prices. I mean, the problem for us, I think, is that the average Oregonian makes less than the national average. We have a disconnection between kids who get the second highest SAT scores in the country to go to college 4 years in a row, and the average citizen earns $1,200 less than the national average. We kind of floated along through the 70s when Governor McCall was here. Everything was going our way. I think we got a little sloppy about trying to take care of both the environment and keeping our kids at home. That's been our biggest export. And I think Jane mentioned that. We're going to lose a lot of kids looking for an opportunity somewhere else. We want to keep them at home and build the kind of Oregon that they can stay here and enjoy the incredible Columbia gorges and beaches and so on.
A little bit later, Jane is going to get into the fight over the spotted owl and the timber industries versus the environmentalists. Is that a battle that Oregon is ever going to be able to put to rest, or is your economy basically going to be held hostage?
I don't think it's Oregon's to put to rest in one sense. These forests belong to the country. Half of the land in Oregon is owned by the United States government. I think what we'd like to do is to take the country good, solid proposals to produce some predictability. The real problem is that it has been very unpredictable and very unstable. And after all, it is an American dream that people be able to afford a house to rent or own, and we're a part of that, supplying quality wood products to the world. And we know the number of people working in the forest will go down because of productivity, but it doesn't need to go down precipitously, and I don't think we have to mow the forest down in order to have stable wood supply available. I think we'd like to get it out of the courts. I don't think the courts manage the natural resources of this country very well.
Should the people decide it here?
Oh, I don't think we ought to decide it by ourselves. I don't really want people to be able to make a decision to pollute on the East Coast and the oceans and ignore us, and I don't think we want to do it either.
The late Governor McCall used to invite folks like me and everybody else from outside here to come on, see it, enjoy it, have a good time, but then go home. You subscribe to that?
Well, no, and I always thought he had his tongue in his cheek a little bit because he was telling us if we don't plan for it, folks are going to come. And if you're sitting here getting a suntan, and Jane Pauley's whole staff is looking for sunglasses right now. I was there when they were doing this, so I want you to know that I'm a witness to the weather in Oregon today, and we're proud that you're here broadcasting it around.
Governor, thanks a bunch.
You're terrific.
I got to get out of here.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're going to come back in a moment after a break. This is Today on NBC.
In all the world, there's only one way to travel, the Uniglobe way.
It is a busy week. The flight's full, but we were able to find you a seat.
Thousands and thousands of business travelers rely on Uniglobe for their travel needs.
It's confirmed. Flight, car, and hotel.
Uniglobe, doing more for business travel than anyone in all the world. One world, one you, one travel agent.
Hi, Chuck Knopf for George Marlin Plumbing. Everybody knows we have one of the largest selections in the Northwest. But more than that, it's our people that make the difference. Right, Dave?
That's right. You know, plumbing has changed a lot since we opened in 1927. Today, our people are trained and equipped to handle every modern plumbing need.
Remember, because we don't sell VCRs,
or barbecues,
or 2x4s, we're just the best at one thing.
Play! George Marlin Plumbing, the water heater king.
Why should you buy Sherwin-Williams paint? Well, look at it this way. That coat of Sherwin-Williams paint protects your biggest investment. It has to hold the line against all kinds of weather, year after year after year. So when it comes to quality paints, where do you draw the line? Ask Sherwin-Williams.
Steve Portler before Nutrisystem. Steve Portler after Nutrisystem.
I lost 110 pounds in 6 months. I was working in a hospital, and I saw what being overweight can do to a person medically, so I decided to call Nutrisystem. I feel much better about myself now. I see a skinnier me. I see myself as being more healthy. When I look in the mirror now, I see the best person I can be.
Lose all the weight you want for only $169. Call Nutrisystem today for details.
From infancy to old age, healthcare concerns can be matters of life and death. Check America's vital signs, only on it.
to abundant farmlands, Fred Meyer brings you the rich harvest of the great Northwest.
Around the World in 30 Minutes, tonight at 7:30.
Today's news update is brought to you by the Mazda Dealers Association.
Good morning. It's 7:25 and 48 degrees. I'm Larry Shoup with this update from News 8. Oil industry executives say with or without the Exxon oil spill, gas prices would have gone up. Their assessment comes out of a meeting in Portland yesterday. Our business reporter Jeff Sengstack has details.
It's gone up so much.
Legal officers from 7 states met in Portland to get to the bottom of this. They first heard from an economist who quickly refuted one possible reason for the price hikes.
What explains gasoline prices increasing in the recent past has absolutely nothing to do directly with anything that happened in Alaska.
Leffler showed that much of the price increase was inevitable. In the months before the Alaska spill, crude oil prices had climbed, dealer profits had dropped, and refinery margins had slipped. All this as the summer driving season was about to begin. Valdez simply created a perception among the public that there would be a gasoline shortage, and oil companies, wholesale dealers, and service stations responded to that by pushing prices up.
I think that if there had been no Valdez, we wouldn't have seen the rapid increase, but as I said, the level of prices probably wouldn't be much different than they are today.
What's happened, though, is gasoline dealer profit margins have now dropped back to normal levels, while oil company refinery margins have remained at their new, nearly historic high levels. Prices are now perhaps artificially high. So now that we know the oil companies are responsible for sustaining this price increase, the question economists can't answer is, are those oil companies reaping excessive profits? The oil companies, not surprisingly, say the answer is no. In fact, they say they've seen recent profit declines. That response may not satisfy the legal experts.
Is there enough competition that is going to ensure that the market really works, or are we looking at some other long-term and very troubling events that may suggest that we have prices at the levels that have shocked so many people?
Only 2 oil companies sent representatives to this meeting. They came on the condition that the attorneys general close the meeting to the public. Jeff Sengstack, News 8.
The Gresham teenager accused of being a major cocaine dealer is scheduled to go on trial today. 18-year-old Frank Wolski faces federal charges of cocaine trafficking. Police first arrested Wolski in January on state drug charges. At his expensive apartment, they found weapons, cash, cars, and a quarter pound of cocaine. But officials didn't press their case and instead re-arrested Wolski in March on federal drug charges. The federal case could bring a more severe penalty and force Wolski to spend more time in jail if he's convicted. Former Benton County Sheriff Jack Dolan will not face fines because of dealings with jail inmates. The Oregon Ethics Commission yesterday said the alleged violations were too insignificant to warrant formal censure. Dolan had inmates do work on his house and allowed one to use the hot tub at his home. The commission said Dolan was the victim of political attacks that took advantage of the publicity surrounding those allegations. Well, on this Tuesday morning, time for us to check the weather situation. Let's go back to the Weather Center and Dave Selesky. Good morning, Dave.
And good morning to you, Larry. Well, some cloudy skies and some occasional breaks in the overcast and some rain and some sunshine around the area. A mixed bag of tricks today in the weather. Here's a look at our current conditions outside. We have partly cloudy skies. The temperature now 48 degrees. Winds are out of the south at 9 miles an hour. The barometer, 29.91. It is steady. Humidity now 89%. Here's a quick peek at the Pacific satellite map for this morning. That front that moved through last night is now on the eastern side of the Cascades, bringing some high winds and rains over there. Back in behind it, we're seeing some cooler temperatures around here and occasional rain showers throughout much of today and occasional breaks in the overcast. Our forecast is calling for showers and perhaps even thunder showers today. Same thing for this evening. Daytime high today, 59 degrees. Winds will be out of the southwest. The overnight low down to about 48 degrees. Larry?
Okay, thanks a lot, Dave. The Today Show from Portland continues in a moment. Enjoy your Tuesday, everybody.
Looking for a great truck or a great truck deal needn't be a challenge. Mazda trucks have been rated the most reliable truck sold in America. The Mazda warranty is the best in the truck business. And right now, you can really clean up. With $750 cash back from Mazda on all our trucks. $750 in cold, hard, wet cash.
Get a great deal at Royal Moore Mazda, Rontonkin Mazda, Delon Mazda, Vancouver Mazda.
It's the world's hottest dances on Entertainment Tonight.
We're back now, 7:30 in Portland, Oregon, where KGW TV Channel 8 is celebrating its 30th year as an NBC affiliate. Welcome back to Pioneer Square, where we're in Portland, day 2 of our week-long excursion down the Pacific Coast. We're treated to a lovely day in a lovely city, but my, how this city has changed. Not the city one saw if they came out here in the 60s. We'll take a look at how some bright new ideas and new people turned this city around. We'll meet one of those people in this half hour. The Nike sportswear boss, Bob Knight, is going to be joining us shortly. Jane?
The Cascade Mountains are beautiful, but every now and then we are reminded they are dangerous too. It's a volcanic mountain range. And in this half hour, we'll visit 2 of them. Mount St. Helens, 9 years after it blew. And then we'll look at the bluest and the deepest lake in all of this country, Crater Lake. It was formed in the aftermath of a cataclysmic volcanic explosion some 7,000 years ago.
And Jane, you might not know it from looking at the lush green Willamette Valley, but parts of eastern Oregon are dry, rocky deserts that have been described as some of the loneliest in the country in these United States. This morning we'll begin a new series called Routes, but we'll let correspondent Lucky Severson tell us more about that and his particular mode of transportation.
There are undoubtedly some folks who'd rather see the USA in something more fashionable than a 1950 Chevy pickup, although I find that hard to believe. Our first route report later on today from somewhere south of Plush, Oregon.
All that's to come in this half hour. Let's start the 7:30 half hour back at the news desk once again in New York. Here's John Palmer.
Thanks, Brian. Good morning again from New York. In China this morning, student protesters have vowed to continue their occupation of Tiananmen Square until the government falls. At the same time, vandals use paint to deface the huge portrait of Mao Zedong that overlooks the square. Up until this morning, there had been signs that the pro-democracy protest was winding down. But today, as many as 300,000 protesters are again crowding into the center of Beijing, defying martial law and demanding that government troops withdraw. In this country, lawyers for House Speaker Jim Wright today are hoping to pursue the House Ethics Committee to drop the major charges against him. Wright maintains that he has done nothing wrong. He currently faces 69 violations of House ethics rules. The Bush administration has stated its policy on the Middle East in very clear terms. On Monday, Secretary of State James Baker told Palestinians to give up their uprising and reach out to the Israelis. And Israel, he said, has to give up the idea of annexing the West Bank and Gaza Strip.
Now is the time to lay aside once and for all the unrealistic vision of a greater Israel. Forswear annexation. Stop settlement activity. Allow schools to reopen. Reach out to the Palestinians as neighbors who deserve political rights.
The PLO has welcomed the U.S. call for a dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians. One PLO official described Secretary Baker's comments as a positive step. But in London this morning, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, in a meeting with Britain's foreign minister, told reporters that he is surprised at the comments from Secretary Baker. In Iran this morning, the Ayatollah Khomeini is reported to be in satisfactory condition. According to Tehran radio, the 88-year-old Khomeini underwent surgery to control internal bleeding. Union officials in Los Angeles say they will announce what they're calling a major new initiative today to end the teachers' strike. On Monday, as the strike entered its second week, 11 people, including 10 teachers, were arrested during a sit-in outside school district headquarters. Contract talks between the district and the teachers have broken off. The fired captain of the Exxon Valdez this morning is under 3 felony charges stemming from the oil spill in Prince William Sound. A grand jury charges Joseph Hazelwood with 3 counts of criminal mischief in addition to the 3 misdemeanor counts he already faces. Well, gasoline prices continue to soar according to a new survey by the American Automobile Association. The AAA says drivers this Memorial Day weekend will pay an average of 17 cents more a gallon than they paid at Easter time. That's the sharpest increase in gasoline prices in the past 9 years. And that's it from this desk. Again, our top story, the continuing goings-on happenings in Beijing will keep you up to date. Right now, back to Portland and Brian.
John Palmer, thank you. We'll do a quick pivot right here and send it on to Willard Scott, who has a check of the weather from across the mall. Mr. Scott.
Hey, thank you, Brian. It's got to be at least 83 degrees out here. It's beautiful. The sun, isn't that right? Whew. Oh, it's too hot. Don't ever complain. This town has got it all. We'll tell you more in a few minutes. I want to wish a couple of birthdays this morning. First of all, to Guy Briggs of Hampton, Virginia. He's 101 years old. May Smith in Lubbock, Texas. She's 101. You think we might start a little romance there? You never know. The Martin Luther King Choir sang at President Bush's inaugural, and Kathy Gifford is the choir director, and you conducted Good Morning, and we're so glad.
Good morning.
You were the sunshine of Oregon this morning.
Thank
I know
you.
You must be so proud of the children when they got to sing. Was it a great day?
It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And how was the weather?
It was, it became very cold.
Oh,
yes.
I thought you were going to say it was warm and wonderful.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you could lie and make it at least
That's
make
true.
Thank
That's
you.
true.
We're going to have the youngsters sing in just a second. First of all, we will do a little weather just to keep our legitimate act going. And then we will have the Martin Luther King Choir sing for you, just as they did for President and Mrs. Bush at inauguration. First of all, today, a lot of rain. None of it here this morning. None of it here. The roses are beautiful. And we thank the beautiful rainy day flowers, provided us all of our gorgeous roses this morning. But look out for thunder showers and showers in an area from Philadelphia west to Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Mobile, Alabama south, on throughout the Tennessee Valley into central Florida. That includes, of course, the southeast. Heavy rains today in the mid-Atlantic states. The Pacific Northwest to Montana will get some scattered afternoon showers. Nothing serious. They can handle it. The heat wave continues all the way from the southern and the central plains. It is 102 degrees again today in Phoenix. Palm Springs yesterday was 107. Expect more of the same. Rapid City in South Dakota, way up in the plain states, 95 degrees. So that heat wave does continue. Now, here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
Good morning, I'm David Selesky. Weather for Portland and vicinity calls for partly to mostly cloudy skies and occasional rain showers or a thunder shower. Daytime high today near 59 degrees.
I will get out of the way now because here at Pioneer Square in Portland, Oregon, you will hear the Martin Luther King Choir, Kathy Gifford conducting and also playing the piano, and Rainy Days and Tuesdays, a big hit here in Portland. I'll leave so you can perform, okay?
Let's go from music to business. Though timber is the chief industry in the state of Oregon, the pride of the Portland business community these days is a company that began right here and stayed right here. It's the giant sportswear manufacturer Nike. Spawned by the urge to build a better running shoe, Nike's grown to become a billion-dollar business.
Nike was founded by Bill Bowerman, who was a track coach at the University of Oregon, and by Phil Knight, some 15, 16, 17 years ago. And at that time, what they were trying to do is to make better shoes for championship track athletes. I think back in the early 1970s, shoes, athletic shoes, were still just extensions of street shoes. And street shoes, if you get into how they're made, it's really an art, it's not a science.
The main focus of the Nike Sport Research Laboratory is basic research in biomechanics and functional anatomy. What that means is that we're studying the way the body moves and the way the body is structured, pretty much in the same way that an engineer would look at a sophisticated piece of machinery.
I think there are a lot of people that really feel good about buying that product. Even though they realize they don't perform at that same level, they understand that this is a product that works for the very best. It's the same reason why people like to buy a Porsche, even though they're not going to drive 200 miles an hour. It's the fact that it could go that fast that is intriguing.
It's because he's got the new Air Jordans, Mars. Oh, sweat, oh, sweat, oh, sweat.
There wouldn't have been a running boom, I think, without a technical running shoe. the very first running shoes that had some kind of cushioning system in, enabled more people to participate without getting sore feet and without getting injured. How do we find guinea pigs? We're very fortunate, in fact, that most of the people who work right here at Nike are athletically orientated, and they enjoy coming into the lab and running on the treadmill. Every now and then we get some sucker walk through the door, yeah.
Nike's co-founder and chief executive officer is Phil Knight. Phil, how are you?
Just fine.
What did you see on the horizon 20-plus years ago that made you decide to do this?
Well, we always thought that there was a way to build a better mousetrap. We thought you could make a better running shoe, and that was really, in many ways, the inspiration of my old track coach, Bill Bowerman, which we together started the company and made it work.
Yeah, but yours is $1 billion business, and you started out with $500 of your own money selling these off the back of a tailgate in a station wagon. When did it occur to you that maybe it had some larger potential?
Well, we thought from the very beginning that it could be big. We had a big dream. It got a lot bigger than we ever thought it would get. But in the early days, as big as the dream was, it was still the main preoccupation was paying the rent every month.
Uh-huh. You know, I was looking here. You have one of your earliest shoes and one of your newest ones. How far apart are they in technology?
I think visually you can see how far apart they are.
Yeah.
This was the shoe that we sold in 1971. It was the first running shoe with midsole cushioning in it. And we made it very dramatic. We put a red stripe on it, which is a pretty wild color. Swoosh stripe, pretty wild color for 1971. This is a wilder color for now. But basically we use some of the same principles, going for lightweight and cushioning and stability, and those are the principles that guide us.
Let me show another little bit of a key to your marketing strategy, and that is the tandem of Michael Jordan and Spike Lee. If you haven't seen one of their ads, you're really missing something kind of neat. Watch this one.
This is Morris Blackman, and this is my main man, Michael Jordan. And this is a pair of tight Air Jordans from Nike. This is something you can buy. And this is patented, vicious, high-flying, 360 slam dunk. This is something you cannot do. Let me repeat myself. This you can buy. You cannot do this. Can. No!
Have they succeeded in making yours primarily an inner-city market?
Oh, I don't think so. I think that the information that we get, those shoes are sold across the country with almost equally well. So we don't see ourselves that way at all.
Where do you go with this, Phil? I mean, the fitness craze is just about peak now, and the running phenomenon has bottomed out a little bit. What do you see as the future of the market?
Oh, I think it gets much bigger. It's grown enormously over the last 3 years, and it's really based in fitness. And we've gone from 10 years ago when we had 40 million runners across the United States to now we have something like 50 million walkers and 40 million runners and cross-training people. And I really believe the day will come when you'll see 200 million Americans that have fitness as an active part of their daily regimen.
Final note, give me an honest answer. How many pair of Nikes do you have in your closet?
About 50.
Figured as much. Phil Knight, take care of yourself.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're going to come back in just a moment. There's more ahead from Portland right after this. Thanks, Phil.
It was a mystery. They all seemed alike. Which one had the fewest calories? The answer was staring at me. New Ultimate 90, the lowest calories per ounce. Deliciously fruity. Weight Watchers Ultimate 90. This is living.
Have you ever wondered what a baggage handler might take on vacation? What everyone should take. Samsonite's Glutton for Punishment.
This is a phone. This is a finger. This is how easy it is for anyone to get 100% fiber optic long-distance calls that cost less than AT&T and sound better. Just call U.S. Sprint now and talk with the best.
Do you really want the lowest bidder to move your valued possessions? Making quality service affordable has made United Van Lines America's #1 family mover. At United, the quality shows in every move we make.
At 5 a.m., Walter Miller and his son Bill roll out of bed and into their overalls. But before they think about farming, they think about coffee. They want what you want, an aroma that fills the kitchen, a taste that's rich, satisfying. For them, that's Folgers Crystals. Deep, dark, mountain-grown. There are other coffees, other ways to make it, but the one the Millers use to brace them for the day ahead is this one. holds you as crystals.
8 years ago, scientists kept a vigil that ended with a bang, the likes of which had not been heard in this century. It was the morning of May 18th, 1980, an earthquake which unleashed a massive avalanche and then an explosion and a mushroom of steam which spewed hot ash and gas and rock to surrounding areas. The avalanche caused the waters to rise, toppled trees, caused millions of dollars in damage, and 57 people died that day. Well, now it's 9 years later, and green growth is returning to the mountainside. Don Swanson is a geologist who has been studying the mountains since the eruption and joins us this morning. How do you describe Mount St. Helens today? Asleep, awake, angry, what?
The volcano is currently sleeping, but its last eruption was only 2.5 years ago, and by geologic considerations, it could erupt any time in the future.
What you do know, however, is that it will not erupt any time in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's about how far ahead we can say on the basis of our monitoring, but after 2 weeks, all bets are off.
We're looking at a picture that our camera position, I guess, is at Coldwater Peak, about a mile away from the mountain. And tell me what we're looking at.
We're looking into the crater now. There's a mound of rock just below the cloud line that is the dome. We're focusing in on the dome now. That looks very small, but the dome really is so large that it would have taken about 11 million dump trucks to have brought in all the rock that is in the dome. That has grown.
All of that has come since...
And that's grown since 1980, yeah.
How long before the dome is a perfect peak?
If it continues to grow, it will fill a crater inside of 100 years or so.
What have you learned in 9 years since Mount St. Helens blew?
We've learned, I think, a lot about how to predict small eruptions, but we still don't have a very good idea as to how to predict the really big explosive eruptions.
So you can't tell me if you can say that something may happen in the next 2 weeks, but you don't know how big it's going to be?
We have no idea how big it's going to be, and that is a big concern of ours.
But up and down the Cascades, how many volcanoes are there?
Oh, there are far more than 20, 9 of which were active in the last 150 years.
Any one of which could...
Any one of which could go again with just a very short precursory period before it.
The Cascade Mountains, if it isn't clear, are a chain of volcanic mountains. Of course, Mount St. Helens is the most famous now in the 20th century. But almost 7,000 years ago, the mountains shook with an explosion that was 40 times greater than St. Helens, and Crater Lake was born at that time in mountainous south central Oregon, surrounded by a 20-mile circle of cliffs. It sits the clearest water of any lake in our country. 2,000 feet deep. Crater Lake in the center of Mount Mazama, which erupted, and I guess the Indians passed down the story of that volcanic eruption all these thousands of years. And standing at Crater Lake National Park this morning is Robert Benton, who is the park superintendent. And good morning.
Morning, Jane.
I'm going to ask the simplest of all possible questions about Crater Lake. Why is it so blue, and why is it so clear?
Well, I don't know why it's so clear. Probably because there's no active streams. All of the water going into the lake comes from either snow or rainwater, so it doesn't have a chance to pick up an awful lot of dirt. It's blue because the lake waters absorb all of the other colors except blue and reflect back what we see with our eyes.
Mr. Benton, we are looking now at some tape that was taken underwater. I suspect you know underneath the lake about as well as you do the top. Tell me what's under there.
Well, what we have is North America's deepest lake at nearly 2,000 feet of extremely clear water. It's clear enough that even at 1,200 feet below the surface, if you look up, you can still see light. So it's incredibly clear.
Why are you worried about geothermal exploration that is proposed for outside the park?
Well, our concerns are that something might happen on the periphery of the park that could damage the lake itself or the visitors' enjoyment to it. We're convinced warm water coming into the bottom of the lake, and it's possible that exploration outside of the park could in fact destroy or in some way injure the lake, or as I said, visitors' enjoyment. It's a concern. We're working with the Forest Service on the environmental aspects of it, but I think until this whole issue is solved, we'll continue to be worried about it.
Well, Mr. Benton, we're glad you're on duty. Thank you. And Don Swanson, thank you for being with us here in Portland.
Thank you very much.
We'll have more from Portland in a moment. First, a message.
The facts about butter and calories. Think butter has a ton of calories. Think again. Butter has just 36 calories a pat, the same as margarine. So for no more calories, you get butter's great taste. Delicious dairy butter.
Come on, sport. We interrupt this vacation.
Charge it.
To remind you the Discover card pays you cash back for every charge.
Smile.
It pays to Discover. Here's a very different kind of orange juice. Tropicana Pure Premium. Made with absolutely no water added and no water taken away. So no other major brand comes closer to this than this. Now, don't you want to try it? Tropicana Pure Premium. Nothing added, nothing taken away. You just can't pick a better juice.
Oh, boy, fruit and fiber. No, it's new. Fruit and fiber.
Beg your pardon?
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, they added 25% more dates, raisins, and walnuts to the dates, raisins, and walnuts. So now it's the great-tasting fruit and fiber.
Just because they added more dates, raisins, and walnuts doesn't change the name. It's still fruit and fiber.
No. Matter of fact, it's so delicious, they should call it fruit and fruit and fruit and fruit and fiber.
New Post Fruit and Fiber cereal, now with 25% more dates, raisins, and walnuts.
Hey, you know, most people just don't understand how important the weatherman is to baseball. For instance, if I say it's going to rain at the ballpark, well, no game. But there's one ballpark that will never experience a rainout. Ballpark Franks. They're made with only fresh cuts of lean meat, so they plump when you cook them, and they have no added sugar. And of course, another thing I like about this ballpark is that I always get a great seat right behind the plate. Ballpark Franks. They plump when you cook them.
Today, correspondent Lucky Severson this morning begins a series of summertime reports that he calls routes. His first route is from southeastern Oregon, which Lucky saw through the eyes of a respected writer who's had a change of heart about the land where he grew up.
Motoring on a route with ruts through the Catlow Valley in southeastern Oregon. Chances are extremely good you've never been on this road, never will be. But in the early 1900s, the valley was bustling with traffic and populated with starry-eyed homesteaders who thought they'd found the American dream. But like many folks in this part of paradise, their dreams blew out the window.
There's not a soul out here now. There must have been 1,000, 1,500 people out here at one time.
If we ran out of gas, we'd have a long walk, wouldn't we? The decaying skeleton of the town that was Blitzen. Bill Kittredge grew up 40 miles away. What happened here, the broken dreams, deeply etched in his memory. How many people would you say are in this valley now?
About 8.
8?
I don't know, you know.
The railroad brought these people here with the promise, is that right?
They were really looking for passengers. They were looking for a way to make money with their railroad lines, and so they shipped a lot of people and their possessions and belongings out here, brought them out to places like this and plunked them down and left them. And, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 years later, these people looked around and said, my God, what have we done?
The land of Bill Kittredge is big enough to get lost on dead-end dirt roads that go nowhere for 100 miles. Hey! To get lost in time with desert cowboys, buckaroos. You can see it all from the top of Steens Mountain, a revered place around here.
Oh, Steens Mountain, it gleams in the moonlight, it beckons me homeward and begs me to stay.
Kittredge moved away from the shadow of Steens Mountain when he was middle-aged, decided he wanted to stop being a rancher, start being a writer, to cast some light on the truths and lies of this land of promise. He wrote about ranch life with simple, first-hand eloquence in his book, Owning It All.
And despite the mud and endless hours, the work remained play for a long time, the making of a thing both functional and elegant. We were doing God's labor and creating a good place on earth, living the yeoman pastoral dream, and that's how our mythology defined it.
Kittredge and his family once owned the MC Ranch, one of the largest in the country, 1,250 square miles. But the young buckaroos on the MC now work for a big corporation that owns ball clubs and television stations. There are less than 2,000 buckaroos in the whole empty West.
Nothing's left for me to do but cross the aisle over you.
I come out here and I love this place. I see it. I love this ranch. I go down there in those fields. I love that equipment. I would love to play with it. You know, on the other hand, I don't think I ought to be allowed to play with it. You know, I think they ought to take it home and they ought to let the birds go back in that field and send me to town or something.
Even in this endless landscape, the pastures of the West still produce only 4% of the country's beef. It takes an average of 20 acres of this sparse grassland to support one cow. And Kittredge has lost the conviction that what he was doing here was important and right.
Well, I think now that we probably went too far. I think we controlled nature too much. I think we drained all the swamps. We, in the process, killed off the waterbird habitat. There are a lot of waterbirds. Outsiders think there are a lot of waterbirds in this valley now. Well, you should have seen it when there were a lot of waterbirds. My God, there were hundreds of thousands.
He believes we are all constantly rewriting and revising the story of our lives, rethinking our notion of what is good and evil.
That story that tells me what's sacred and what's demonic does not tell me that cattle ranches are sacred. It tells me that the natural world is sacred, and God knows it tells me that we've been destroying, the natural world hand over fist for quite a while now, and that we're doing a terrifically heedless, reckless job of living on this planet, and we better cut it out.
The view from Steen's Mountain hasn't changed much in 100 years. People have come and gone. Dreams have faded. Now the waterbirds keep their distance. For today, I'm Lucky Severson, NBC News, somewhere south of Plush, Oregon.
We're back in a moment, still an hour ahead from Portland. Stay with us.
Anywhere in the world you can dial direct.
London Market is closing.
You can dial with MCI Worldwide Direct Dialing. Now there's no reason in the world to dial with anyone else.
All right, let's buy.
MCI, we are the better long-distance company.
April in chestnuts in blossom, holiday tables under the tree.
He said he'd give me Paris wrapped up in ribbons, but he was young and poor, so we settled for a small cafe and coffee. Coffee so rich. If I were going to create the perfect place, I'd start with the north. I would carve out rivers and rolling hills, then ride the moon south and warm the skies with a tropical sun. I would dot the west with little hometowns and fill the east with excitement. Right in the middle, I'd put a great big playground. I would surround it all with water from coast to coast to coast, and I'd give it a name, Florida.
Still a lot to come from Portland. We're going to go sightseeing and get into a battle over the environment, too, after a station break.
Tonight, inquiring minds want to know if you make friends with a lawyer.
I take it you people like each other.
Can you get away with murder?
I'm gonna find you guilty.
Matlock, tonight.
Rokes. We take fast food seriously.
Found out that Jay, they're not going out anymore. Oh, no. I don't believe it. All right, I'll tell you. And you call him and ask his mom to go together. Well, I don't know. You're going to have to set it up.
If you get frustrated when your teenager ties up your telephone, don't cut off your teenager and yourself. Make it easier on everyone and call for a second line. From U.S. West, making the most of your time.
For the best value in office products, count on Tops, Total Office Products and Printers.
Save on all Smith Corona products, including the easy-to-use XL 1500 electronic typewriter, just $139, or the PWP 40 complete word processor system, just $399. Save over 50% on quality Chair World chairs, starting at just $99.95. For business or home, huge selections, fast delivery, and quality products. Total Office Products, where the customer is tops.
Pete Schulberg, The Experience Shows, weeknights on News 8.
We're back now, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning in Portland, and it's May the 23rd, and you are looking at City Fireboat David Campbell. Since this city nearly burned down twice back in the 1870s, it takes justifiable pride in its firefighting equipment. And straight ahead in this hour, we'll get into the timber business. It is Oregon's #1 industry, and it's run head-on into environmentalists who want to keep loggers out of the state's older forests. It's a fight that has set Oregonians against one another, and we'll get into it on After 8. And we'll also spend some time with Ken Kesey, Oregon's best-known writer who chronicled the logging industry and sometimes a great notion. As we'll see, he too is worried about the environment. And welcome back to Portland, the Pioneer Square, second hour of today for a Tuesday morning, along with Jane Pauley. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We're going to move back to the news desk shortly. John Palmer is going to get us caught up on all the day's happenings, and then we'll get into a busy hour yet, yes?
And whoever said that Oregon's coastline is the most scenic in the world will get no argument from us this morning. We'll let you be the judge. Later in the hour, Portland's pint-sized breweries. They call them microbreweries, and they are all over town, and reportedly the brew is pretty good. And then we'll have some music from Portland's own Body and Soul. I'm going to taste. You want some? Want to get on the beer? Maybe? Privately.
Be your first time, I know, but you ought to try it. 8:01. Let's get to the news desk one more time. Here's John Pauley.
Thanks, Brian. Jane, good morning again. In Beijing, thousands of students poured back into Tiananmen Square this morning, vowing to continue their protest until the government falls. And for the first time since Friday night, the Chinese authorities have allowed a satellite broadcast from China. You're now looking at a live picture of NBC News correspondent Keith Miller. He has a report for us. Go ahead, Keith, please.
The significance of the changes happening so rapidly here can be measured by my ability to speak to you via satellite. The government, as you said, had shut down all transmissions for 3 days, a news blackout from Beijing. It's an indication now that we're back on the air that the hardliners in the government may not be in control.
Demonstrations against the government gained new vigor today as many people took to the streets to demand the resignation of the government. The situation in China is as unstable as the weather. Early this morning, Army troops withdrew from the suburbs and returned to their barracks. The retreat highlighted a power struggle at the highest levels of government that is unfolding in secret. Protesters demanded the resignation of Premier Li Peng. He declared martial law last Friday in a failed attempt to end the demonstration for democracy. He is opposed by Communist Party chief Xiao Jiang, a moderate who supported student demands for political reform. Mao's portrait over the gate to the Forbidden City was splattered with paint, but student leaders turned the people who did it over to police. The protests for political reform have entered a new and perhaps critical stage, and student demonstrators appear confident of victory.
There is no official word from here on any change in the leadership, but many people are talking about it, and everyone expects it. John?
Thank you, Keith Miller, reporting live there from Beijing. In Washington this morning, House Speaker Jim Wright's defense team is on the offensive, appearing before the House Ethics Committee. Wright is accused of breaking House Rule 69 times. He's asking the committee to drop the charges. Congressional correspondent Henry Champ is on Capitol Hill. Henry?
Good morning, John. The first hour of Speaker Wright's hearing has passed, his lawyers vigorously making the point that Wright has been unfairly tried in the press and in public. The Speaker left his Washington suburb home for what is certain to be his most difficult day ever on Capitol Hill. His job rests with his lawyer's ability to convince 12 colleagues he has broken no rules.
If Jim Wright is driven from office without a chance to respond to the charges against him, without his day in court, then justice delayed will be justice denied.
Wright's lawyer argued it is the facts of law that should rule.
If this legal issue is ignored, if Jim Wright comes before you in a disciplinary hearing and proves to your satisfaction that he did not do the things he is accused of doing, the ambiguities in the rule will still exist. You and your colleagues will not know whether you are crossing the line or not crossing the line in the future.
It is a tense hearing room crowded with both public and press. At stake is the career of one of Washington's most powerful men. John?
Thank you, Henry. Tehran radio reports that the Ayatollah Khomeini underwent surgery this morning to control internal bleeding. Khomeini is reported to be in satisfactory condition. A 13-month investigation into the Aloha Airlines accident is expected to conclude today in Washington. A stewardess died when the roof of a Boeing 737 ripped open over the Pacific Ocean in April. After examining such issues as metal fatigue, design, and crew performance, the National Transportation Safety Board is expected to state the probable cause of that accident. The board is also expected to issue recommendations for the upkeep of aging airliners. Experts are disagreeing on the effects of the disastrous Alaska oil spill on the price of gasoline, but in less than a month, gasoline has gone up nearly 25%. We have a report from Jeff Stenstack of KGW in Portland.
Attorneys General and Deputy Attorneys General from 7 western states met in Portland to get some answers. To start off, they hired an economics professor from the University of Washington. He quickly shot down the prevailing theory.
What explains gasoline prices increasing in the recent past has absolutely nothing to do directly with anything that happened in Alaska.
Leffler found that gasoline prices before the Alaska spill were artificially low. Crude oil prices had climbed, but gas station dealers and oil company refineries had cut their profit margins. This due to competitive pressures. The attorneys general also heard testimony stating that the Alaska spill only accelerated a move by oil companies to raise gasoline prices.
It's pretty clear that they charged or explored what the market would bear, have found that it would bear more than it was, and that's where the price is, according to their testimony.
Oil companies say the only question was exactly when the price increase would happen.
I think if there had been no Valdez, we wouldn't have seen the rapid increase, but as I said, the level of prices probably wouldn't be much different than they are today.
Burns believes prices would have reached today's levels at least by the July 4th weekend. Jeff Sangstack for NBC News, Portland.
Brian?
Another check of the weather. This time we go down to the Willamette River and the River Place Marina where Willard Scott has set up shop. Mr. Scott.
Hey, and I've got His Honor the Mayor, and I mean His Honor the Mayor, Bud Clark. It's good to see you in the daylight.
It's good to have you back here in the daylight. That's true. The last time we did this was very early in the morning.
We dedicated the weather machine, and this is, of course, big festival time down here.
Yes, the first 3 weeks of June, we have a number of parades and the cart races and then the Rose Festival, the delightful Portland.
Can I tell the folks that we sort of, I mean, being a politician and a weatherman, we snitched these roses from City Hall.
From City Hall. I brought that to you from City Hall Garden, as a matter of fact. They used to have a pair of scissors there that you could go along and get your own rose. This was back before we didn't have as many people here as we do.
Well, I congratulate you. Your second term, right? You're the second term.
Right on. We're 5 months into it now.
Congratulations. And behind me we have, holy mackerel, I don't want to... This is a young lady here. You have the girl on the bow here.
Yes, that's right.
What is this, the dragon race? Is this all part of the
This
activity?
is part of the Kaohsiung Sister City program. They brought these beautiful dragon boats from Kaohsiung on Taiwan, and we've got 31 corporations and businesses in the city of Portland signed up for races, which we're going to have during the Rose Festival.
It's a pretty racy-looking crowd you got here.
They come down and race. They come down and practice. You know, I mean, it's a huge athletic program, too, as a matter of fact.
They'd let me get on one of those dragon...
Oh, they'd love to have you there.
Let's see if I don't sink it in just a few minutes. We'll check the weather first, and then thank you, Bud. His Honor the Mayor, and we'll check that in just a minute. I'll see if I can't get one of those dragon ships to carry me away. First of all, a birthday wish to Arita Mason of Los Angeles. She is 104 today, and Alfonso Allen Sr. of Milwaukee, Wisconsin is 100. The big weather story, actually there's two, not anything that dramatic, but the heat continues throughout the Southwest, 106 in Phoenix, all the way across the central and southern Rockies, the Plain States, all the way as far north as Rapid City. It's going to be 94 today. Also, the middle and lower Mississippi Valley will be very, very hot. Severe weather, be on the lookout, please. Tornadoes possible throughout the upper Mississippi Valley and the eastern and central part of South Dakota. And a lot of heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic states today, generally showery from the southeast Florida all the way back up through the Mississippi Valley. Here's what's happening in your world, even as we speak.
Good morning, I'm David Selesky. Weather for Portland and vicinity calls for partly to mostly cloudy skies and occasional rain showers or a thunder shower. Daytime high today near 59 degrees.
Okay, it's all going to happen. Don't forget, the Festival of Roses gets underway. It's for 3 weeks. You'll have fun. If you'll take my microphone, I'm going to beat my bongo. Dr. Koo. Hey! Hey! On to Cleveland. Hey!
Okay, we're moving up on 810 right now. In just a moment, we'll get into a fight around these parts. It's loggers versus the environment with an owl in the middle. First a break. This is Today on NBC.
We changed this picture to make a point about a legendary beauty. But unless you look close, you'd never see it. That's true of Alaska. Even after the oil spill, the things you come here to see and do are unchanged. From Columbia Glacier to Mount McKinley, the Kenai Peninsula to Ketchikan, Alaska is still home to spectacular fishing, wildlife, and scenery. So come to Alaska this summer and see one of the most beautiful faces on Earth, Alaska.
In 1908, while selling coffee to the lumber camps above Portland, a young man developed a philosophy which shaped his life's work. Always offer customers the service, selection, quality, and price that satisfies them. Join us as we celebrate Fred G. Meyer's commitment to customers and value with our Founders Day sale. Our buyers have combed the market to bring you the best buys store-wide. It's our biggest and best sale of the year.
Everyone at some time or another has the need to communicate effectively. For business, it's essential to think under fire and get more done in less time. The Dale Carnegie course is designed to bring out the best in people. Become more confident, more capable of meeting the challenges of life in a positive way. Regardless of education, social, or economic backgrounds, Dale Carnegie offers a deeply rewarding experience to men and women who enter it. Find out how Dale Carnegie Training can help you.
Dale Carnegie Training, presented by Byron E. Thompson and Associates.
When we go and play, when we tour, people come up to us and say, "You're from where?" "From Oregon," "From Portland, Oregon." You know, what do they have out there? We especially hear that in the East Coast. So they're surprised that there's anything cultural or musical of any consequence going on out here. But the fact of the matter is there's a hell of a lot more going on out here than there is in most other parts of the country.
What's more American than clearing a forest and building homes? But on After 8 today, a red-hot debate that threatens Oregon's #1 industry, timber. Because also at stake are our nation's oldest living treasures, trees that were standing when Christopher Columbus arrived in the New World. Freelance journalist John Alpert has put together this story.
The forest we're in right now shows a lot of the typical characteristics of ancient forests here in the Northwest. Large live trees, very rich structural diversity, and one of the wildlife species that seems particularly attached to this kind of forest is the northern spotted owl. And the assumption is that if the spotted owl is doing well, other wildlife species will also be doing well. There are 3 different lawsuits that involve the spotted owl that prevent timber sales from substantial portions of Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management lands.
My name's Tom Hirons. I'm a logger on the Willamette.
And we've been logging this sale for approximately 3 years under almost constant protest from the environmentalists, and been in and out of court on it. Finally, we're just about to wrap it up. When people see something like this, they would probably think of nothing but destruction, but I see a new beginning. And when I see a truck like this go by, I think of new houses and all the paper products that we use in our daily lives. And I know that we can have a new forest here, and it is a continuing forest and a new renewable resource.
Tom and I used to make our living as loggers, and Tom still does it. We used to cut down the ancient forest, but it changed for me once I learned how to fly. As far as you can see nothing but clear cut, and this is the heritage we're leaving to our children. We're cutting the national forest for about 2 square miles a week. This is the Opal Creek Ancient Forest. These trees are over 500 years old. And the Forest Service, if they have their way, is going to come in here and chop all these trees down and leave nothing but stumps. And then eventually they'll grow back as a plantation for wood fiber, but we'll never have the like of these trees again. I used to make my living cutting these things down. Until my conscience finally got to me and I realized that these ought to be saved for our children and our children's children. Here's things that were standing here 400 years before Columbus discovered America, and yet we're talking about cutting it down in 5 minutes and turning it into plywood or pulp.
They shut down the old growth, there'd be so much fighting between companies over what's left that most timber companies wouldn't be able to run. That's what keeps the mill going. We have 115 people working here. We have an annual payroll of about $3.2 million.
The slope before us gives a very graphic representation of what the debate is all about. Ancient old-growth forest on the right, a clear cut on the left. And you'll see that everywhere you go here in the Northwest. And the real question is, now that we've reached the point where perhaps 85% of the original old growth has been converted to clear cuts and plantations, isn't it time to stop?
Andy Kerr is the Conservation Director of the Oregon National Resources Council. And Kevin Long here represents the timber industry. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. I think the only thing you two are going to agree on is that last week's court ruling, which our viewers might have heard about, was not the last word on this issue, was it? And having said that, Mr. Kerr, you lost that round, didn't you? What's at stake?
Well, what's at stake is trees that are 250 feet high that were here. Some of the trees are 1,000 years of age, and there's only about 10% of it left, 1/10 of what we had.
So you're arguing over 10% of what used to be here.
We're arguing over something that's going to last the industry 5 to 10 more years maximum before it's gone.
How much of that do you want? How much of that 10%?
We think it's time for the industry to get on to cutting what they planted like they said they were going to do all along, because there's 100 species of wildlife that depend upon this kind of forest that are going to be lost if the last of it is cut down.
Well, why doesn't that make sense?
The 10% figure that Andy brings up is a figment of his calculator. In reality, of the old growth that we have left, over half of it is preserved. Enough old growth to create a 2-mile wide strip that could run from here back to your studios in New York City.
Kevin, I'll check my calculator if you determine what a tree is, but you got to be counting the top of Mount Hood on your equation. There's simply not that many big trees protected in our wilderness system. I'll be glad to take you out there, and you could try to show me all of them,
Andy,
because they're not there.
Andy, I live there. I don't live in Portland. And these are U.S. Forest Service figures. There's 7.5 million acres
these
of
are
old growth left.
These are the national forests.
I'm not interrupting.
I'm wondering how wide an argument we would get when the governor was here earlier in the show. It wasn't clear to me that he was on either your side or your side of the argument, and which led me to believe, never mind he's a politician, that maybe there's a middle ground.
I believe you, Jane, and in fact, congressionally mandated there's a forest management process where society is going to make those decisions, and society is making those decisions, and they've decided we need to preserve half of it. It's Andy Kerr and a handful of environmentalists that are circumventing that process with appeals that have escalated 615%. They've tied up the national forest systems in this state. They've tied industry's hands behind our back to a point where they are circumventing the wishes of society.
Kevin, this is a timber industry that's exporting 3 times as many raw logs overseas, exporting jobs, exporting our heritage and our future.
You know what I think is interesting, because we're speaking about heritage here, is that both of you are Oregon natives. Your folks, your people, I guess, were homesteaders. You were 5th generation, and they were loggers. So who has the right to say what becomes of
I say the right is coming up to the people that own the forest. That's me and Kevin and you and everybody else watching today. These are the nation's forests, and it doesn't make sense to subsidize the timber industry, giving away the last of these big trees for an industry that is shrinking, an industry that is changing. You know, we are not so poor that we have to destroy the last of our ancient forests,
well,
nor
I
so
got to
rich
tell
that we
you
can
what the
afford
last
to.
word on this is going to be. The last word is mine, and thanking you for being here today.
You're welcome.
From Portland, this is Today on NBC.
Most minivans are powered by sissy engines, not Ford Aerostar. With a 3-liter V6 Ford engine, it has all the power to get 7 people over the Cascades with no huff or puff. This extended length Aerostar has room to spare at a realistic price, including everything from privacy glass to dual captain's chairs. See your local Northwest Ford dealer. Tell them you'd like to drive a real van.
At 15, kids don't want to be mothered anymore. You have to pick your opportunities.
Citrus Hill Plus Calcium is one of those opportunities. We said if we could take 100% pure orange juice and add calcium without changing the taste, girls like Paula would drink it every day. To her, it's just delicious juice. To me, it's better nutrition. And as big as she is, she's still my baby.
Citrus Hill Plus Calcium, a more nutritious orange juice.
Yakitori. Onegari Yaki. A famous Tokyo restaurant? Nope, right here at home in America with Yoshida's Gourmet Sauce. Yoshida's Gourmet Sauce is unique, sweet and sour and teriyaki sauce and sake wine. Yoshida's makes chicken, seafood, meat, and vegetable recipes elegant and delectable. So look for Yoshida's and say, Meshi agare. Yoshida's, the authentic flavor of Japan, at home.
On the next PM magazine.
Phileas Fogg's got nothing on us.
Who needs 80 days? We'll take you for a spin around the globe in 30 minutes. The itinerary calls for stops in London, England, Shanghai, China, and Kenya, Africa. Plus, we'll visit India's majestic Taj Mahal and, of course, the wilds of southern Oregon. You'll be seasoned travelers before the night is over.
I'm Jack McGowan.
And I'm Teresa Richardson. Join us tonight at 7:30 for PM Magazine.
Right here on Channel 8, your Rose Festival station.
When commercial development threatened the Oregon coastline back in the 60s, the state legislature passed an extraordinary bill that forever preserves the coast for what was called free and uninterrupted use by the public. That bit of farsightedness has guaranteed the survival of one of the world's most spectacular coastal areas. When you first see it, the rugged, windswept beauty of the Oregon coast is enough to take your breath away. Highway 101 hugs the surf line for 346 miles, all the way from Washington State to California. The Oregon coast is arguably the #1 natural attraction in the Pacific Northwest. But in the spring, the coast belongs almost exclusively to the birds and the sea lions. On a sunny day, the wide beaches may look inviting, but this coast is known more for its violent storms than its sunbathing. That's borne out in the names of the areas that dot the coast. Places like Devil's Churn and Cape Foulweather. In and around such places, monuments stand to fishermen lost at sea. Stan Allen has chronicled much of the lore of the Oregon coast. He tells of one shipwreck near Depew Bay, where in 1910 a schooner caught fire at sea and the crew was forced to abandon ship.
The ship, meantime, came driving in here, all alone, untended. My golly, what a sight that must have been, belching spark and smoke and flames and everything else. It finally piled up on the rocky shore over there.
The stormy sea beat the ship into splinters, leaving only its boiler on the rocks. To this day, the cove is called Boiler Bay. 56 years after he first came here, Allen today sees mostly sport fishermen leaving the docks at Depew Bay. The sea is just as generous now as it's always been.
Look at those big old basses.
These waters teem with sea life, from bass and salmon to whales and seals. History indicates that the rugged Oregon coast was first spotted by the Europeans in the late 16th century by Sir Francis Drake. But by then it had already been inhabited for thousands of years.
This whole country was ours at one time, this whole Oregon coast.
The Siletz Indian Nation once lived and fished along more than 1 million acres in the Northwest. Tribe General Manager Phil Relatos now oversees a tribal corporation that controls 3,600 acres. But the Siletz Indians have their eyes set on the future. Recently, they built a small housing tract for Indians only. Now they're looking to reclaim other parts of Oregon.
Buy it back, and that's okay. But we're going to get there. We're not going to buy the whole country back, but we'll make our own individual tribe self-sufficient.
Self-sufficiency is a characteristic for people on this coast. Once the difficult weather and solitude grab hold, it's tough to part with such beauty. It is lovely, and we are getting set to close down shop for this half hour from Portland. We're going to come back in just a moment. Still a lot more ahead in our final half hour, including a look at the suds industry here. We're going to taste some of the local brews when we come back. First, we'll take a station break.
Wednesday and
Kevin Gillian, Sid Caesar, B. Arthur, and Brooke Shields.
Have you learned any French? Maurice Chevalier.
Bob Hope's Birthday Spectacular from Paris Wednesday.
I need a taste. Give me just a taste.
If you want to taste something truly sensational, just look for the NutraSweet Swirl.
You start me up, ooh, don't ever quit. NutraSweet's the one. Give me just a bit. I want to taste, oh yeah.
NutraSweet. Why so many things taste so good.
Pete Schulberg and Tracy Berry, weeknights on News 8.
Back now at 25 past the hour. We're enjoying our final moments in Portland. We really get cheated out of Portland on this trip, don't we?
We surely do. Whose idea was that?
'Twasn't mine, because we actually had to spend the night in San Francisco and flew down this afternoon. And as soon as we're done and sign off, we immediately are wheels up and back to San Francisco. I mean, we don't even get to stay here.
But you know how easy it was when I left home, and I am traveling solo this trip. Poor little motherless children. But how easy it was to find on the map to point out where Mommy was going. Oregon is very easy to find on the placemat that they eat dinner on.
Had you ever been here before?
Never.
See, I've been here several times. Do they still have, somebody maybe can help me out, do they still have a place here where you can buy a 72-ounce steak? Yeah. There used to be, the last time I was down in this town, shows you how old I am, it was back when Neil Lomax was at Portland State, right? And I had a 72-ounce steak somewhere.
72, a 6
Shut your heart
pound.
down like that. Really, just a 72-ounce steak.
Do you have a 72-ounce capacity stomach?
I did then, yeah. 72-ounce steak, and I can't for the life of me think of the name of the place. What is it? Country Kitchen.
Country Kitchen.
Yeah, and I had been here for that. I also was here back when Louis Tiant tried to come back with the Buckaroos for a time. Used to come up here with the Lakers. Is that a bad word? When they used to play the Trailblazers. I've been in this city a few times, but I haven't been back in some. Is the Hotel Benson still up and working? Okay. That's one of the loveliest old hotels you could ever stay at. Really is. Absolutely a marvelous place.
You know, I've been toying with whether or not I should say something or not, but you know, I'm from Indianapolis. And I feel rather fondly about the town I come from, but all right, Indianapolis isn't one of America's glitziest cities.
No, it's not.
But there's something homey about Portland that I feel I identify with. There's something in common between my hometown, so that I look around and I feel, oh, thank you for, they like that.
Well, that's why you wonder. I mean, from a distance, you read all this stuff about they're suspicious of outsiders and everything else, and then you walk around here and people smile at you.
Well, you know, some of us come from hometowns where people really live, and you come from a hometown where tourists go.
New Orleans.
New
Richmond.
Orleans, yes.
Yeah.
But tourists don't flock to Indianapolis.
Well, but they flock out here.
But it's a great place to live and raise a family, and that kind of feels the way Portland is. This is a pretty good place to put down deep roots.
You know what's really strange? Do you know all the attention Michael Jordan is getting right now with the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, I do.
Do you know that Michael Jordan could have been a Portland Trailblazer? Am I bringing up bad memories? Once upon a time, when Michael Jordan was getting out of college, the Trailblazers had the #1 draft pick. And they took Sam Bowie instead. Isn't that right? Yeah. And the Chicago Bulls, picking second, picked Michael Jordan. And it kind of hasn't worked out right for Portland, over the years. I mean, Sam's had his problems and his shin problems and his ankle problems and the like, and Michael's doing quite well.
Well, life just works out that way.
Life works out like that. It bees like that sometimes. Do you like my bear over there?
Your bear?
Yep, he's my bear now. Serious. I had to bring some piece of Portland back, and that's it.
Got a temper like you?
No, he's docile. 29 past the hour. Will McInerney, thank you. I played full price, thank you. We'll be back in just a moment. Station break.
outstanding drama, an unforgettable chronicle, a fascinating story. The most powerful drama on television in months. I Know My First Name is Stephen continues tonight.
That sounds like a good idea. Oh, by the way, I'll be there Friday.
Friday? Great, Mom. We'll have your room ready.
And here's your room, Mom. Oh, everything is just lovely.
Channel 8, your Rose Festival station.
Oregon, my Oregon, Oregon, my Oregon.
Back at 8:30, the Street Corner Singers, group from around these parts, welcoming us back at 8:30, and we're in the middle of Pioneer Square, wrapping up day 2 of our week-long excursion down. I'm sorry, I got caught with these on. Down the Pacific Coast. There's more music to come in this half hour, including a Portland band on the way up called Body and Soul. Jane?
Novelist Ken Kesey got his first look at Oregon from the back seat of his father's car. He was 11 years old, and the family packed up and moved to Oregon, and Ken Kesey had his doubts about that.
And
Sun came up, however.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the doubts went away, and Ken Kesey is raising his family here, and we'll find out in this half hour why he chose to stay.
Did I jumpstart on you? I apologize.
Just a little bit.
That's okay. I wanted to get to the beer.
I know.
Because the microbrew industry is booming in these parts. In the last 5 years, it's really taken off. We're going to taste a little bit of the local suds in this half hour. One final time for a Tuesday morning, with apologies to Miss Pauly. Let's go back to John Palmer in New York. John?
Thanks, Bryant. Jane, good morning again. In the news this morning, as we've been reporting, student demonstrators in China are pressing on with their protest and expanding their demands. They have vowed to continue their protest until the government of China resigns. 300,000 people jammed Tiananmen Square today in Beijing. 2 people threw paint on the portrait of Mao Zedong. The vandals were grabbed by students. The portrait was covered with a new tarp for a time, and then it was replaced altogether. Martial law remains in effect, but this morning the government allowed the first television pictures out of Beijing since they cut satellite transmissions from China last Friday evening. The Ayatollah Khomeini is said to be in satisfactory condition this morning after an operation to stop internal bleeding, this according to Tehran radio. In other news, a delegation from the Organization of American States will arrive today in Panama. The group is hoping to work out a solution to the political crisis in Panama. Last week, the OAS condemned General Noriega for abuses in Panama's elections. Secretary of State James Baker, using unusually blunt language, is calling on Israel to give up the idea of annexing the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and to reach out to the Palestinians. And he said it is high time for a serious dialogue between the two sides. There was a sharp rejection this morning, though, to Baker from Israeli Prime Minister Shamir. Shamir visiting today with officials in London.
We cannot accept and we cannot agree to what is said about some positions of Israel in the future, or even issues not related directly to the peace initiative. Well, I think it's useless. It was useless.
Meanwhile, an official with the PLO welcomed the speech by Secretary Baker, calling it a positive step. A new study this morning indicates that melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer, can be stopped from spreading if it is detected and treated in its earliest stages. Researchers studied more than 400 melanoma patients over the past many years. The study found that the key to survival is early detection and treatment. The strike by Los Angeles teachers continues this morning with no talk scheduled there. On Monday, 11 people, most of them teachers, were arrested outside district headquarters during a sit-in. Officials with the teachers union say they will unveil a major new initiative today designed to break the deadlock in the nation's second biggest school system. The fired captain of the Exxon Valdez is facing 3 new and more serious charges this morning. A grand jury in Alaska indicted Joseph Hazelwood on 3 felony counts Monday in connection with the nation's worst oil spill. If he's convicted, he could receive up to 15 years in prison and a $150,000 fine. Hazelwood already faces 3 misdemeanor charges. President Bush hosted a state dinner last night for the nation's governors, and one of them a former opponent, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis. The president told his guests that he enjoys living in the White House, and he sought to discourage anybody in the audience interested in getting him to leave. The editor of the Guinness Book of Records says there will be no more keeping track of things like pancakes and spaghetti eating, at least not in his book. And that's it from here. Let's go back now to Brian.
All right, John Palmer, before we move to the weather, let's talk a little sports. Though Oregon is well known for its track and field, there's another sport that has caught wind here, quite literally. Would you believe that Oregon's become a haven for windsurfers?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. What can I say? My board's broken, my sail's ripped. It was awesome. We get the wind coming from the west, sweeping through to the east. At the same time, the river's flowing the opposite direction, flowing, of course, toward the ocean to the west. And this situation of opposing wind and current just creates the best possible windsurf conditions. Windsurfing is like if you could take skiing, surfing, water skiing, and sailing and mix them all into one. You've got windsurfing. It's a fantastic feeling of exhilaration. Here we are, we're going along across the river, probably somewhere around 25 to 30 miles an hour. Coming in toward Washington Shore now, I'm going to go in for a jibe, and whoops, missed that one. The gorge, to me, is one of the most beautiful spots in the country. To be able to sail out here in the middle of this river and look up at this beautiful gorge and the scenery, to me, there's just nothing that can beat it.
At 8:36, we understand that Willard is set to give windsurfing a try. Is this true?
I'm about to give windsurfing a bad name. This is about true, Brian. Take a look at this. I will set windsurfing back and modeling male models about 100 years with this outfit. Who fixed this for me?
Bear.
The Bear people, right?
Yes.
And that's what will happen if this thing gives way on the back. I will be Bears the day I was born, naked as a jaybird. Dave Spike Livermore, you're the head honcho, the sailboard instructor down here. And tell me now, this actually is the right outfit to wear.
Absolutely.
What's it made
Absolutely. Neoprene.
They wiped out 75 herd of neoprene to get this one suit. The big show was us putting this on in the men's room, right? If somebody had come in there, we'd all be in jail, you know, right? Am I the biggest thing you've ever had on a sailboard?
No, actually not.
Not really?
Darn close.
And the person that was as big as I am got out and did the thing on the water?
Absolutely. Absolutely, on TV.
The trick is all, I guess, on television.
Yeah.
Is it all in balance?
Balance, yes. Yeah. And not a lot. Sailing skills help a lot, too.
You see these lovely young ladies on it, and they're little petite ladies. They must have incredible strength, because when you pull this thing up in the wind, it's a little bit heavy.
It's a game of finesse.
Yeah.
It really is finesse. It doesn't require a lot of strength.
It's all in balance.
Balance and finesse.
Well, I'll tell you, you've made a man out of me. I can't believe it. One is the greatest feat that I've ever accomplished in the last 30 years is getting the suit on. The next greatest feat will be getting it off. And I'll expect a crew of 45 to meet in the men's room in about 10 minutes. We're going to, one big, a shiv up the gid will probably take care of it. Let's do some weather and see what we have for the weather people out there in TV land today. A lot of showers, thunder showers, and just plain old showers. From Philadelphia east to Lexington, Kentucky to the west, Mobile, Alabama to the south, and then on through central Florida. Heavy showers throughout the mid-Atlantic states, and some scattered showers throughout the Pacific Northwest today as well. Look out for the heat to continue in the southwest, heat continuing through the Rockies and the plains, all the way Rapid City, as far north as Rapid City. It's going to be about 94 degrees today. So those are the two big weather stories. Just sort of keep an eye out. Here's what's happening in your world as we surfboard.
Good morning, I'm David Selesky. Weather for Portland and vicinity calls for partly to mostly cloudy skies and occasional rain showers or a thunder shower. Daytime high today near 59 degrees.
Our way, we're going to take this thing all the way up to Seattle. I left my wallet. Okay, come on, gang. Back to Brian Rumble in New York. I don't know where I am.
Oh, hello. One of Oregon's most famous sons is writer Ken Kesey, the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Sometimes a Great Notion. He lives just south of Eugene. Most days, Kesey can be found working his farm in the small community of Pleasant Hill. He likes to be called a farmer and writer these days. Home for the Kesey family is an old converted barn. It's there on the second floor that the author works, sometimes late into the night, on a new novel about Alaska. Recently, he took some time off and, along with his daughter, Sunshine, showed us some of his special Oregon places. As he drove with his favorite music playing, he spoke of his concern for the environment.
Oregon still has very clean air, and the Willamette River 15 years ago was getting really bad, and we passed a Clean Water Act and really got in there and cleaned up that river. And all these industries, they always say, no, we can't do it, we'll go broke, but when it comes right down to it, they do it, and they get by, and it stops turning out crap in the water. Keeping the water clean in this state is what keeps this state beautiful and healthy. They put this dam up for flood control, essentially, but they didn't put any fish ladders. So the salmon run, which is travel all over the world and come back into the Columbia and then come all the way up here, this is the end of the line for it. That's what these guys are across the way doing. They're catching them.
It's probably about 17, 18 pounds. It'll probably be 24, 25 by the time I get home. They grow, you know.
They bring in the big fish up here and breed them there in the breeding houses. Finally, the fish at about 8 inches, 12 inches long, they'll come in here with trucks, load up these trucks full of water, and release them all over the streams, all over Oregon. And good fishermen follow around in the night so they can find out where those trucks are going to unload the fish. The osprey is really the seahawk. They were disappearing about 18 years ago. We thought we were going to lose them. Stopped the DDT, the eggs began to firm up, and now the osprey are coming back. When they were originally logging this area, they needed to keep the wood of the bridge covered, otherwise the beating of the log work and the rain rotted it out. So this was just a way to keep the rain off the bridge.
There is a road, no simple highway.
Spencer and Skinner, Eugene Skinner and old man Spencer, drew a straight line from house to house, and that's the main street of Eugene. Runs right down through the two of them. You can see why it's called the town of trees. As many trees as we've cut down, there's been a lot of them come back. Rhododendron is a wild, natural plant here in Oregon. The overcast sky brings out the colors. It's almost as though the light itself is coming from the flowers. Water coming in from its most pure source, right out of the earth and disappearing right into the earth. This stuff percolated down through these lava rocks is probably as pure water, purer than it would be falling from the air. Trying to keep the state pure, the water pure, the trees standing, and the loggers healthy. It's possible if we just don't sell out. My dad used to say, I want my kids to have it better than I had it. We were Okies. And we're down to the point where we're saying now, I'd like for our kids to have it at least as good as we had it. And it's sliding fast.
We'll be back from Portland after a message.
Let me ask you something. Why pay more for pink or blue packets when they're Sugar Twin? Sugar Twin costs less, tastes great, sweetens my coffee perfectly. So why pay more?
Sugar Twin. Sweet taste, sweeter price.
If you think being out of the house means being out of touch, you don't know Uniden. I've told you before, this is a great cordless phone.
No vegetables yesterday, honey. Have a V8.
One delicious glass of V8 juice provides a serving of vegetables, which is an important part of a balanced diet.
Hey, Fred. No V8 today, huh?
Drink V8. Keep your diet straight.
What you making? Sandwiches. Woohoo! For us. And you're using the good mayonnaise. My mother always uses the good mayonnaise. She does?
Bring out the best foods and bring out the best.
When you go to sleep, do you end up counting these? I'm Ernest Williger. My company makes Stearns & Foster mattresses. They're firm and comfortable and give you a great night's sleep. So stop counting sheep and get the mattress you can count on. Stearns & Foster. You can't get a better mattress or a better night's sleep.
Now that you're 40, would it kill you to eat 40-plus bran flakes?
Dad, this is healthy stuff. After 40, that's no better than kid stuff.
Kellogg's 40-plus bran flakes. For you, after 40. Because if you need it, it's got the maximum fiber plus iron in one cereal.
So? I hate it when you're right.
I waited 40 years to hear that.
Kellogg's 40-plus bran flakes. After 40, everything else is just kid stuff.
As Jane told you a little bit earlier, Portland is known for its high winds. Well, it's also known for its drafts, and the two aren't necessarily synonymous. The drafts I'm talking about are brews of the homemade variety. And what many of you may not realize is that Portland has become the capital of a North American beer renaissance. In fact, since 1984, Portland has established more breweries than any other city in the country. They are called microbreweries, small but very productive. They each produce approximately 4,000 barrels of beer annually. But what distinguishes these micros from the more popular and much larger nationally known breweries is more than just the ingredients.
We provide variety for the consumer, we provide choice, and I think ultimately we provide flavor.
We can make specialized products. We don't have to make something that will be acceptable to a large number of people. We can cater to individual tastes.
Some of the craft breweries have gone the homemade idea one step better by opening brew pubs or retail tap rooms right on the premises.
No, it's wonderful beer. And I live up the street here, and it's nice to be able to come down and get honest beer that I can sit here and watch the guy make, you know, on a daily basis. And smell it brewing up the street.
Say hello to Fred Eckert. He's a man who's into the local suds industry. He's a beer enthusiast and critic who writes about the booming beer industry here in the Northwest. Why the Northwest?
Yes, it's a place that has a climate and an atmosphere kind of like in Europe. You know, people do a lot more drink in public here than they do in a lot of other places.
But it's also booming in Chicago, New England, Milwaukee.
Same climate.
How's this compare?
I think we're doing better. We got more breweries, and the beer's better.
Is that right? The people who get into it, do they do it to make a profit, or do they do it because of a hobby?
I think they do it to make profit someday, but they start out knowing they aren't going to make much profit.
Okay, let's
just not much
let's
choice.
drink instead of talk.
Okay.
And as you pour, maybe I can talk to you a little bit about this. Why has the phenomenon been so recent?
Well, it's kind of like a.
Thank you.
It's kind of like a brain drain. Things don't work until it gets far enough down the tube, and then finally people realize they've got to do something about it. And brewers did that.
This is a wheat beer?
This is a wheat beer.
Yeah.
It has lemon you can use optional to... no, it takes the edge off the...
Lemon?
Yeah. Tastes good to me.
Yeah, it tastes fine. Of course, I haven't tasted a bad one yet. All right, let's move down. What is this?
Okay.
Bridgeport Brew Pub.
Bridgeport.
Now, why is this one different?
This one is an English-style ale. Last one was a German-style ale, and this is an English-style ale. These are all ales.
People around these parts, do they tend to stick...
I'm not very good at this.
You're doing fine. Do they tend to stick most to their local brand, or do they try a bunch of them?
Take a look at this.
That's nice color.
Nice color.
Nice color. Now,
clear.
This is, it's called a bitter. Does that necessarily mean it's going to get a lot hardier?
No, I think the word bitter is an English word that implies that it could be bitter, but chances are it really implies that it's just an ordinary ale.
Okay, let's drink, and I'll pour this one as drink. It is a little tougher, though. Right?
That's Portland ale, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you answer me this. Do the locals tend to drink this stuff more than the stuff that comes out of, say, St. Louis?
Our breweries right now in draft sales are ranking 8th, 9th, and 10th in the state of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still not getting anywhere near Budweiser.
Do the big guys resent you? Cheers.
I don't think so, no. We make life simple for them.
Now that one wasn't my favorite. This one I'm dying to taste because you said this has whole raspberries added.
Yeah, but the raspberries are strained out. There's no raspberries now.
There's no raspberries in this, but it's going to have a raspberry color on it.
I need some, too.
Oh, okay, I wasn't going to leave you out.
Thank you.
We could go past 9 o'clock, you know, it doesn't matter.
We might not even notice.
Oh, sure, we just kind of stay here and have some fun. It does have a little bit of a raspberry color, but am I going to taste it?
Yeah, taste it. This is very light. It's very light. Kind of refreshing.
Yeah. I don't know if I can make a habit of this stuff. I didn't get a chance to ask
Have it for me.
What do you think of Bud and Miller?
Well, I think of them as industrial beer.
Industrial beer?
Yes, industrial.
All right, we'll taste more of the stuff in a second. Jane's got some work to do. We'll let her get to it. Then you and I will try to figure this out a little bit closer, okay? We'll be back in a minute. There's more ahead right after this.
Now I have more reason to get into hot water.
More moisturizers in Calgon Moisturizing Foam Bath. More moisturizers for soft, smooth skin. More reason to let new Calgon take you away.
Remember that special feeling called summer? Remember the taste of summer peaches? So cool, juicy, and good for you?
Summer fruits from California, fresh from the tree. Taste them and see.
They have a special sweetness that only summer can bring. But like summer, they'll soon be just a sweet memory.
Summer fruits from California.
DuPont knows you want to keep your home beautiful, down to that beautiful new carpet. But there are always a few snags.
What?
So DuPont developed certified Stainmaster carpet. Now even stains this ugly clean up this beautifully. There's only one Stain Master from DuPont.
And now get great savings during DuPont Decorating Dollar Days. Look for this poster at your DuPont Stainmaster dealers.
Introducing a new way to separate the ordinary dog from the mighty dog. New Mighty Dog sliced varieties. Delicious beef or turkey slices and gravy. A new way to go from ordinary to extraordinary. Only Mighty Dog puts 100% pure ingredients and no byproducts in every can. That's why it tastes unlike ordinary dog food. And why a Mighty Dog is no ordinary dog. New Mighty Dog sliced varieties. 2 new ways to unleash the mighty in your dog.
All natural Sundance Sparkler. A refreshingly bright idea. Just fruit juices and pure sparkling water. No added sugar, no aftertaste. Sundance puts refreshment in a whole new light.
I bet it's the Northern Lights.
There's a lot of music coming out of Portland these days, and among the best is a group called Body and Soul, which are with us today. The leader is Mark Bosnian. The group won first place in a local competition. But this would be, or is about to be, your network debut.
It is, and we want to let everybody know we don't have a record deal, but we're looking for one. So all you record guys out there, check it out.
Brian and I are packing and unpacking and packing. Are you all ready to pack your bags and go? If the song is successful and you get the deal, you're ready to travel, go on the road?
That's right. That's right.
If so, the song you're about to sing is the song that probably will make stars of you. It's called
Wrap Your Heart Around Me.
Wrap Your Heart Around Me.
See
And Portland heard him first, Body and Soul. We'll be back after a message.
There's pizza or pasta with sauce, of course, and fabulous chickens. My heart quickens, but I gotta have a spicy enchilada with 37 Weight Watchers entrees. Choosing can be quite confusing. What a delicious dilemma. Weight Watchers, this is living.
Here's some colorful news. The latest report from the Surgeon General says that controlling your weight helps reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, which keeps you in the pink.
Hey, Tippett, whatever it was, it's dead.
Very funny, Flutie. I always do this to my shredded wheat.
Didn't your mother tell you not to play with your food?
I learned this from my mother.
I knew that. I did.
Now, Bisco shredded wheat is great no matter how you eat it because it's nutritious whole wheat with no added sugar or salt.
Hey, Flutie, you better try spoon-sized shredded wheat. I wouldn't want you to strain yourself.
Steal a moment to baby yourself by moisturizing with Johnson's Baby Oil. It helps seal in your skin's natural moisture.
Baby soft, baby smooth, baby fresh, oh baby you.
Johnson's Baby Oil, Lotion, and Powder. Baby yourself with Johnson's.
Baby you.
From Johnson & Johnson.
Come on, sport.
We interrupt this vacation.
Charge it.
To remind you the Discover card pays you cash back for every charge.
Smile.
It pays to Discover.
What's the best kind of fruit? The kind that's fresh, moist, and plump. That's why Sunsweet are my favorite kind of pitted prunes. Moist, plump, and fresh. Sunsweet, because the best prunes are fresh prunes.
About time for us to pack up and go on home. Portland has been nice.
Yeah, this could go down to the record books, you know.
Why? What do you mean?
Well, this could if it doesn't rain. And it sure doesn't look like it's going to rain, but this could be one of the 60-some days of sunshine that Portland has every year.
Well, it may well be the prettiest May 24th they ever had.
That's quite possible.
I mean, because it's been lovely out here, and I'm not necessarily sure they like that because the world's going to tilt a little bit, and all the folks from New York are going to come rolling on out here, and then you'll have a whole bunch of different things to talk about. Anyway, as for